And we are recording. So the first thing I want to do, if you've never used Microsoft Teams before, essentially the way I'd like this to go is, and I'll bring over the screen here real quick, and Dave, everybody might see your pretty face, but essentially if you have a question, there's a button here that you can actually raise your hand, and if you raise your hand, Darren Olstrom is in the room with me. He'll kind of stop me and alert me that there's a question. I'll unmute your mics, and then you'll be able to ask that question. So that's just kind of general housekeeping. If you don't wish to talk, I've enabled the chat. So if you go over to the chat here on your screen, and you can type in a new message here, and you should ask your questions here, and that will also be monitored by Darren as well to stop me for a question. So that's just kind of some general housekeeping that I wanted to mention first, if you've never used Teams before. So with that being said, let's get started. So this is the What's New webinar. We're going to talk about a few things today. But first, let's talk about we're going to go through some introductions. We'll talk about the Stratix 5800 and some Panduit network zone systems, and just some other new product mentions that we want to make sure everybody's aware of. Essentially, so first we'll dive into actually who I am. If you've never met me before, I am Keith Karras. I'm the automation and networking specialist here at Winkle Electric. I've been here for about 3 years now, and I've had previous experience in industry before with automation and networking. So my focus is typically PLCs, information software, and kind of networking equipment for Rockwell as a required role here. So that's a little bit about myself, and now we'll move on to the Stratix 5800. So after much anticipation, this is actually finally released and available for sale, and we're ready to go. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an overview of the new Stratix 5800 high performance switch. So this is the switch hardware. As you can see, the hardware layout is pretty similar to of the 5700 and the 5400. All the 5800 switches have the same basic hardware structure. 2 fixed switches, and they're not expandable. You have 2 that are fixed switches and 2 that are not expandable. And there's other 6 part numbers that are expandable. And some of the key attributes include, 8 copper ports with 2 SFP slots. You have a single expansion module that you can use with it. You can either select an 8-port or a 16-port expansion module. And I'll show you in future slides about, there is part numbers where modular expansions aren't allowed. So it kind of has if you've worked with the Stratix 8000s and 8300s, those are actually a discontinued product. These kind of have the modular things. Kind of the difference at first hand is the Stratix 8000 and 8300, you're able to put multiple expansion modules. For the start and the firmware that's releasing, they're only allowing 1 expandable module with these. And again, just like the other features of the switch, you have dual power alarm connector, ground, and console ports similar to 5400. A couple other changes I'd like to mention is, so the SD card concept, it does continue, but there's actually a new part number required for the SD card. And basically they only have the one, it's a 1784 SDHC8. And that's the only one then tested and authorized for the 5800. It's just a high capacity card with higher performance in memory than the 5700s or the 5400s. Also a new feature here behind the covers here, they actually have 2 USB ports in the upper upper left-hand corner. This is new. With these ports, a USB device can be used as a bootable device and as an alternative to the SD card. So now we have an option to back up our config files to USB, which is, I think, is very handy in this case. And there's actually options where we kind of bridge the gap, where one of the gaps I think with the 5800 is very powerful is there's PoE and PoE plus options on these switches. And also, and if it wasn't aware to you before, all the switches are 1 gig capable. So another gap that we bridged compared to the, some of the 5400s and, the 5700. And again, this is just going into, just the switch hardware options, just kind of an overview. And they're on the Allen Bradley website, basically the combinations that you can do. But like I said, there's fixed port, all gig, there's a layer 2 switch, modular 10 port, all gig, modular 10 port, all gig is layer 3, 2 SFP slots. Again, the fixed layer 2 switches, they do not support the expansion modules with an option for PoE. The modular 2 switches support 1 expansion module with options for PoE or PoE and advanced features. And I'll kind of, like I said, down and later in the presentation, show you an example of kind of the hierarchy of what combinations that you can use with each switches. And again, the layer 3 switch supports 1 expansion module with options for PoE or PoE plus with advanced feature support. So kind of here's the overview. Here's all the expansion modules that can be attached to these specific ones that are called out to the Stratix 5800. Variety of, like I said, 9 expansion modules are available. 1 expansion module can be added to the right of the modular switch, as I mentioned before. And again, advanced expansion modules will support advanced firmware features. Standard expansion modules will support advanced features on their port. Will not support advanced features on their ports. So from here, like I said, this is kind of the catalog options. This is a good screen to have, what they're offering. Currently to date, as of Rockwell, all these are available for sale. Basically, this is an overview of all of them. But as I mentioned before, as you can see here, this part number, you have the 10 total ports, no PoE, 2 SFP slots, but there's not a check for this modular, which means if you buy this part number with an MMS 10B, there's not a modular option, so you can't put a modular expansion next to it. So when you're when in future orders, make sure you mention that and verify that if you think that in the future you're going to need to expand. And also here they have the firmware types through here, and then also the expansion module part numbers here for it. So like I said, this is just kind of the configuration guidelines, just kind of overview what I explained. You have the fixed, the non-modular switches do not support the expansion modules, pretty straightforward. Modular switches support 1 expansion module only. Switches with standard features support standard expansion modules only. Switches with advanced features supports both standard and advanced expansion modules. And again, lastly, only PoE switches support PoE expansion modules. So just kind of the things to note when you're starting to pair these things. It's not one module fits all. There's some rules that you have to follow when purchasing these switches and trying to add the expansions to it. And here's just kind of, this is on the website as well too. They have the module kind of compatibility chart, which basically when you pick a number, they'll say supported and not supported configurations, which I think can be, pretty handy when you're trying to lay out your system. Excuse me, and put out what do you think you're going to need as far as port density and things like that. If you have, again, it's in the Stratix technical manual that is released, and they, if you guys are familiar with Proposal Works, and if you use Integrated Architecture Builder within Rockwell, there'll be tools in that as well to help you when selecting a switch for your project. So that's kind of the hardware aspect of it. Next, we're going to get more into kind of the firmware and some of the changes that are taking place with inside of the 5800. I think I just saw a question pop in, is can we get a list price on the MMS 10? Yes, I'll have Derek. If you have Proposal Works, I believe they're loaded in there, but we can take a note and we can get you a price for that. Mm-hmm. And I think Darren's going to work through that for you right now. Okay. The Stratix 5800 firmware. So again, just pretty similar to like the 5400. You have layer 2 switching or layer 3 routing firmware options. It's crypto image only, so just more added security features for so basically you have the crypto firmware that runs in the iOS, basically similar to the Cisco behind the scenes. This is a feature that I got to play with last year, before COVID hit, is the new operating system. They actually are running a new Cisco iOS XE operating system, which has and I'll show you some screenshots on the next slide, a faster interface. So if you've used the device manager before, it's very slow and can really cause a headache, which make people bypass it. So they fixed that portion of it. It runs really fast and really smooth. They have global macro and smart ports for automation applications. Again, similar to the 5400s if you configured these switches before. So again, IT and OT, there's a web UI, which I just discussed there, an add-on profile to add into your controller, for configuration and maintenance. Premier integrated architecture support, so there's custom add-on profiles, there's faceplates for factory talk view, the new Panduit 5000s have faceplates for them, and of course ME and SC. If you're a security nut, there's a 6244-42 cybersecurity verification that Rockwell has on these for added security, and basically you just need the required web UI for configuration of that security protocol. And basically that, and I can mention about that 62443 global security. It's just a couple key items about it. This certification requires configuration of the switch in a specific way to meet the standard. These requirements are itemized in the user manual. Unlike other certifications that come with the product, this certification requires the product to be configured by the user to meet the certification. And again, just some added things for independence and things that they verified through the security that's very important for these type of architectures. So the web UI, as you can see, it's definitely a different look and feel if you've used the device manager before. So as you can see, there's a new menuing structure and workflow. Like I said, for the customers that are familiar with the device manager, the most significant difference will be the transitioning to the new web UI for the switch configuration, obviously. Some of the key attributes of the web UI include a new menu structure and workflow. The lower right screen highlights the new menu structure, which is down on the left side here. The example on the screen shows the second level of navigation, which appears when you select the configuration tab. The top right screen over here shows a portion of the overview page. The overview screen has modular widgets, which can be rearranged on the screen or hidden. The overview page also shows a picture of the switch. Some parts of the screen can be seen in the lower right-hand corner of the lower right-hand screenshot here, just kind of how the widgets play through. And everything is shown in real-time status. The lower left screen shows the file manager. From this screen, you can see what files are in the switch with the capability to add, replace, or delete these files. So kind of a brand new overview system, very fast. That's not going to bog you down like the device manager is sometimes. So kind of a whole new look and feel for this, which I think from the device manager, it is a extreme improvement. And again, just some other key attributes. So they add, extended troubleshooting tools, debug bundle, ping and trace route, and you have a direct interface to the CLI. So if you don't have a console cable or things like that, you actually can do some CLI commands if you're familiar with CLI directly from the web portal. Like I said, they have the trace. So if you ever use a trace route, or if you're a network, they have a ping and a trace route, which allow you to ping another device without pulling it out of a separate diagnostics tool. So very key things to do in one place instead of jumping around when you're trying to, troubleshoot to where things are going and how things are connected. And again, in the upper right, this is the debug bundle page. Like I showed here, this allows you to bundle CLI files typically used for debug into a single file, which then can be easily sent for analysis. So if you ever have a problem with it, a tech support case, there's a file here that you can send the VRR and the config files for debugging to help with troubleshooting if you're experiencing problems with your switch. And going forward, kind of the layer 2, firmware feature highlight. So these are kind of the things that just come with the layer 2 firmware. Basically, everything that goes. I'm not going to read every single one of them. I just kind of want to put that out there with some of the differences between the, full version of the Stratix 5700 and the Lite. Obviously, you get some more things with the layer 2 and the 5800, but there's also things that are not there. So, this is not a list of all the features. Note that, NetFlow and NAT are only available on the modular switches. So, for example, this is just a base level. So if you need NAT, then you need a part number for the modular. Still layer 2, but you need again, a modular part number. The fixed switches that don't allow for expandability don't, support the NAT feature. So just some of the things that you have to, keep in mind when, when you're, again, going through and designing out your system, what you're going to stand and things like that. Next here. So again, the layer 3 firmware feature highlights, if you're getting to the, to the inter-VLAN routing, again, you can do that on the layer 2, but also into the dynamic routing, multicast routing, HSRP redundant routing, just policy-based routing, IPv6, just a lot of things that that are included if you're, if you get to the, like I said, this is more for the higher level IT level for them configurations to have available that wants to be one of your core switches in your architecture. They can utilize some of these routing and things like that. So now that's just all in layer 2. That's all standard features. Now don't forget we have the advanced feature that we're going to be talking about here. As you can see, the advanced firmware features, this is required with the advanced hardware. So you get the PRP, the device level ring, not currently released for the first reiteration of this firmware, which I believe is 17, but they are in talks of having that in the next couple of months here for the for future advanced features. And again, I know this is very redundant, but the advanced features can only be enabled on the advanced hardware. If advanced features are required, then advanced hardware is required. Some advanced features are available with the initial release, like PRP and TrustSec. Other releases like DLR and HSR will be in, again, future releases. So just kind of a brief overview of the advanced features that will be tied to the 5800. Resources, / tools. So basically, like I said, the Stratix 5800 user manual, the technical manual is out. There's a product profile out there. Again, we have the Winkle Electric What's New Stratix 5800 website product page, which I will show at the end of this presentation. Custom Logix Designer add-on profile. Again, the faceplates, Factory Talk Network Manager support, 2D and 3D drawings should be released by mid-April. I haven't seen anything in the repository yet, but I will double check that today to see if that's been updated. Another good key point is in the mix is Rockwell has a cloud-based training session that they're creating in the works for these switches, which the distributors have access to send to the customers. So once those get up and running, I know there's a couple out there now for the 5700 and the 5400 for kind of security configurations with that. They are coming out with releases for the 5800, which will be, I don't know the time frame, but according to some of the meetings I've been sitting in on, those should be available here in the Encore sometime this year for testing. So that is all I have on the 5800. Like I said, just wanted to give you a brief overview how everything comes together. If there's any questions, about the 5800, please raise your hand. I haven't seen anything in the chat, and Darren hasn't said anything. So I'll give it a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Okay, if no questions, I'll keep moving on. So the next part of our agenda here is this is not necessarily the new products, but I kind of want to mention some of the things that the switch and this go hand in hand, and stress that the logical portion with your switches are also important, but also the physical infrastructure is also important in your architectures. So kind of Panduit offers what I like these network zone systems, and basically they help accommodate multiple Ethernet connections associated with on-machine connectivity with the use of integrated industrial Ethernet switch. So a couple of questions to ask yourself is when you're designing, when you need these managed switches and where they're going to be located and throughout your plant, or if you're an OEM on your machine that for somewhere that can't fit in the control panel, need to meet certain environmental requirements to improve the longevity of your switch. So basically a couple of questions to ask yourself, are you going to have managed switches in your facility? Chances are it's going to be yes. Right now, do you have enough bandwidth right now to incur for future expansion? So as your uplink, 1 gig, do you need to expand based off a digital transformation, IoT, need for data? Very important things to ask yourself is, do I have the capability to do this as an OEM or as an end user? Does everything consolidate back to a control room? Are you looking for a way to accelerate your switch deployment? So essentially, basically, what that being said is taking the next step to say, okay, well, I need to get a system in. I need to get it in quick. I don't have time to sit here and wire up some terminal blocks and power supplies to put a switch in. Panduit can help with that, and as you'll see in the future slide. And again, this is a lot of thing as far as infrastructure goes back. 7% of today's infrastructure is only focused on cabling and longevity, but 80% of the problems with networking happen in your cabling and how things are terminated and things like that. So cabling is a big factor in network health, and I want to stress that for the Panduit going forward. So a lot of things that you'll see, so my idea that is with the network zone system, we can go from this to something like this, where everything's a little more cleaner. You have downlinks to the control panel devices, you have redundant cabling paths with cable tray. There's OM4 armored fiber backbone that we can organize the cable trays and things put in there, all parts from Panduit that can help. So as you can see in here, this is a network zone system that are all tied together. Everything's properly labeled, cable ties together. And as you'll see in future slides, I'll show you with more stuff come together. And again, how everything gets put together neatly and organized so that you're going to be available to have things ready for expansion and things that you need throughout your facility. So very, very important, the cabling aspect, to make this neat and clean and easy to troubleshoot. So kind of just an overview of the things that Panduit offers. They kind of have the two flavors. It's quick and easy, but basically I have a kind of a chart here that explains do it yourself versus the pre-configured and the universal zone system that Panduit offers. And I'd like to mention, if you've purchased these zone systems in the past or haven't, they used to come with specific, switch modifications. Basically a Stratix 8000 switch they would design these panels for. Well, those are now discontinued, and they kind of offer these new offerings, which kind of makes sense of the route that they go. But they have two kind of different flavors that I'll show in the next couple of slides here. You have a pre-configured configuration, which again shows it has your cable management, has your grounding infrastructure, your high voltage barrier, copper fiber connectivity, thermally validated, standard compliant, and assembly time. So, and then they also have the same things with the universal cabinet, but you kind of have your electrical already in there, and everything is factory tested for you and ready to go. So kind of just showing how fast you need to get things implemented through. So the first one is the pre-configured zone here. So again, there's two sizes available with what I showed in that architecture. So it's assembled and ready to receive, accept the active equipment. So right there, you can put your own power supplies, your own switch, whatever you need. But there's certain things that, that you want to add. It's UL type 4/12, NEMA 412, and IP66 rated. Any food and bev out there or stainless steel requirements, these also come in stainless steel. And there's also, for certain certifications, there's slope top enclosure that you can get on top of it. And again, the NEMA ratings 4, 4X, and 12. Just some options that you can have here where switches are stored. So kind of similar is the universal network zone. Again, you have two sizes. As you can see, there's more things available to make your implementation time even faster. Switch and power ready. So as you can see, the wiring there, the terminal blocks, you just pop your switch in there, bring in 120, and you're ready to go, or whatever in-feed power that you like to use. And again, saves a lot of time, as you can see over here. Circuit breaker, power supplies. There's even options to add UPSs into this from Panduit or Rockwell on top of these. So very powerful, very clean installs. If you wish to know more, this is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg of a whole Panduit network zone system. I mean, there's a lot of things that Winkle and Panduit can do as a feed study and things to really move to more of a structured cabling / network zone system type of architecture. Especially, this is kind of one of those steps that I like to mention, especially if you're moving towards data collection and, remote connectivity. If you don't have a valid, sustainable, strong, redundant, resilient architecture, you'll be left behind the curve. And I really like these products, and they're very easy to use and makes everything very clean. So just kind of a brief overview of the networking products. The zone enclosures, is there any questions about the zone enclosures? Great. So again, part of our agenda, I just kind of want to mention some of the things that, we get surveys here from Rockwell. We take customer feedback seriously here at Winkle. So what we've done based off feedback is we've decided from our Winkle website, if you've been there before, we actually have a new product section. And to access the new product, here's the web address right here, www.winkle.com, /new products. And I was going to show that, just kind of a brief overview of that, the new products that will be listed. Just give me a second, I'll bring it over here. As you can see from the list here, it's one of the first thing that's propped up, and we'll view what's new. So basically, again, we have the Winkle webinar. For future webinars, we'll be able to register here. Again, new products, this is how you reach out to one of your account reps or one of your specialists here. So as you can see, just as we talked about today, here's the Allen Bradley switches. You can download PDF directly to it. our Panduit network zone system after we talked about some other absence of voltage testers. If you want some information, this is another Panduit product that we're featuring for these next couple of months. Portable label printers. So a lot of new things and a data access port. So if you want more information about these things, there's links directly from the website here to reach out to one of us to, to acquire more information about whatever new products that are here. So very powerful, very, again, this is something new that we put into this month based off all our feedback from our customers. And that's directly from the Winkle website. Get to the next slide here. And as I mentioned, which is in my last slide here, you could register for future webinars here when they get posted. After this one, of course, our marketing guy, Bill, will put in the new webinar, which we'll talk about a date. Right now, we're going to be working on bi-monthly updates, and we'll try to cram pack some more things in here. And also, I will be sending out a survey. It's because we also want your feedback as well as the customers to see what you would like to hear about, want more information, topics to, discuss about. So right there is from the new webinar, as I explained. You go through the link here and be able to, register and keep it up to date with the news thing. Also, I'd like to mention, we send out a newsletter as well too from the website as well. You can sign up for that. That also will have a lot of new products and things about Winkle that to keep you in the loop of new things. So that's all I have for you today. Like I said, I appreciate everybody's time. That's kind of the tentative date that I'm thinking is 6/23/2021 in June for the next one. So what I will do is I will unmute all your mics. If you wish to ask a question, please. Let me. Oh, Dave Greiner has a question. Okay, Dave, give me 1 second. Okay, you should be able to unmute now, Dave. I cannot hear him.
Not muted.
Hey, Bob, can you unmute and see if I can hear you? Conger?
This is Bill. I'm testing it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So, Dave, if you have a problem with your mic, if you want to go ahead and type it into the chat, I can answer your question here. I'll keep the chat up for now. If no one else has a question, you're free to go. Again, I appreciate the time. Please reach out if you have any to myself, if you have any future inquiries. And thank you. I'll just wait for Dave to jump back in to see if he has a question. Anyone else stick around if he wants to see what he has to ask.